probably more confusion flying around on the subject of modes than on any other aspect of music theory. And I think this is partly because modes are very ancient. The modern modal system that we're going to take a look at today is really a distillation of many centuries of attempts to codify musical sound, reaching back at least as far as the time of the ancient Greeks. So in this lesson, we're going to take hold of a subject one layer at a time and strip out the complexity so that we make these mysterious modes not only accessible, but actually quite good fun to learn. But a word of warning before we start. This lesson will assume that you've fairly thoroughly studied all the preceding levels on the pyramid of guitar music theory that support this final level. If you've cut any corners or fallen asleep on any of the previous lessons from the guitar music theory course, now is a good time to go back and revise to consolidate your knowledge. Okay, let's dive in. There's a printout to go with this lesson, and if you can, it's a good idea to print that out before we actually launch into the explanation. You can access that from the toolbox to the right of the screen, or from the printouts folder if you've bought this course as part of a downloadable package. In theory, any type of scale can have its modes, but we're going to focus on the major scale modes because they are far and away the most commonly used and discussed. So here we have the first mode of, you guessed it, C major. This mode has a number, 1, a name, it's called the Ionian Mode, after the name of an ancient Mediterranean tribe who inhabited a region in what is now Western Turkey. The mnemonic column has the word in, a word beginning with I, to remind us of I for Ionian. Don't worry, that is going to make a bit more sense as we work through the lesson. But most importantly, notice that in the notes column, we simply have the familiar C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, the notes of the C major scale. So our first mode, the C Ionian mode, is the one that we're most familiar with and have done most of our theory work with so far. Okay, let's add the next mode. Mode number 2 of the C major scale is called the D Dorian mode. We're going to want to remember the order of the names of all the modes, so you can see that we're building up our mnemonic with a sentence that so far reads In Dorset. In starts for I for Ionian, Dorset starts with D for Dorian. As I said, that will make more sense as we go along. Now the notes in this mode are simply the same as in the first mode, just starting and ending at a different point in the sequence. So you could say the D Dorian mode contains the notes of the C major scale from the second note to the 9th. Oh yes, I should have mentioned that the Dorians were an ancient tribe who settled in a place called Doris in what is now central Greece around 1100 BC. The third mode of the scale of C major is the E Phrygian mode. Some people pronounce it Phrygian, some people say Phrygian. Doesn't much matter. To remind us of the P for Phrygian, we add the word people to our mnemonic, so we've so far got In Dorset People. The notes of the E Phrygian mode are E, F, G, A, B, C, D and E. The C major scale from the 3rd to the 10th note. Phrygia, or Phrygia, was an ancient country situated somewhere between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, around about the 12th to 6th centuries BC. You may well have heard of one of its legendary kings, King Midas, who prayed to the gods for everything he touched to be turned to gold. They promptly and kindly granted his prayer, and he proceeded to die very slowly and agonisingly of starvation. As I say, be careful what you wish for. The fourth mode of C major is the F Lydian mode. Our mnemonic now reads, In Dorset People live, and the notes of the F Lydian mode are F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. The notes of the C major scale from the note 4 to note 11. Lydia was an Iron Age kingdom just east of Ionia, in what is now a province of Turkey. It later became a Roman province, and its main claim to fame is that coins were invented there to facilitate retail shopping, which it's also claimed they invented. Well, if you name a province after a woman, what do you expect? The fifth mode of the C major scale is the G Mixolydian mode. Our mnemonic adds the word mostly, M for mostly, reminding us of M for Mixolydian. The notes G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G are the C major scale from notes 5 to 12. You'll be amazed to learn that there was never an ancient tribe of Mixolydians. The word derives from the Greek and means literally half-lydian. Now, the formation of the Mixolydian mode has changed beyond all recognition since it was first named by the Greek poet Sappho in the 7th century BC. And for this reason, the half-lydian label is hard to make any real sense of now. Mode 6 of the C major scale is the A Aeolian mode. Our mnemonic now reads, In Dorset People live mostly along, A for along, reminding us of A for Aeolian. The notes are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, being notes 6 to 13 in the C major scale. If this mode looks vaguely familiar, it's because it's the one that we've studied at great length under its pseudonym of the A natural minor scale. Remember, we looked at this as the relative minor scale, which effectively is another way of saying the sixth mode of a major scale. Now, the Aeolians were another ancient Greek tribe who took their name from the Greek god of the wind, Aeolus. You may have heard of the Aeolian harp, which is the only known musical instrument designed to be played by the wind. And last, but by no means least, we have the B Locrian Mode. You'll hear it pronounced Locrian or Locrian. I'm not quite sure which it's supposed to be honest. The mnemonic completes with the word lanes, L for lanes, reminding us of L for Locrian. That you have to make certain it doesn't remind you of L for Lydian instead. To avoid this, I find it helps to remember that Lydian and Mixolydian come next to each other. The B Locrian scale contains the notes of the C major scale from 7 to 15. The name refers to yet another ancient Greek tribe, the Locrians, who lived in Locris, pretty much next door to Doris, where the Dorians lived. So that is a look at how the modes derive from the major scale. Exactly the same process can be applied to any major scale to work out its modes. For example, supposing I want to know the Phrygian mode of the D major scale. I first use my mnemonic to work out the number of the mode, So that's In Dorset People, P for people, P for Phrygian. So it's the third mode. So now I take my D major scale, and I find its third note, F sharp. I find a note an octave higher, which will be the 10th note in the D major scale. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'll link those two notes together, but being careful to use the pattern from the D major scale. Whoops. So it's the F sharp Phrygian mode, which is the third mode of D major. However, in usage, we generally need to use the modes directly. That means I need to be able to grab hold of the notes of the B flat Lydian scale, just like that, for example. Now, the mental process to get hold of this, knowing what we know so far, is pretty torturous. For example, I'd have to ask myself, Lydian, okay, that's the In Dorset People live fourth mode. So now I've got to ask myself the rather clumsy question, in which major scale is B flat the fourth note? And to try and do that in your head, for example, you'd have to think back from B flat, a semitone to A, a tone to G, a tone to F is the answer. And then really only then could I have a chance of working it out. So I've worked backwards from B flat, semitone, tone, tone down to F is our parent scale. I'll use this octave here, climb up to note 4 and then carry on up the scale from there. So I get to the next B flat. So that's our Lydian mode of B flat. And I'm very pleased with myself having worked that out. Problem is, by the time I've worked all that out, I look up to find not only has the song finished, but the rest of the band have already packed up and gone home. So we need to find another view of modes that helps us simplify this particular task. Looking at the Ionian mode first, we compare the notes to those of a major scale of the same name. This is shown in the chart under the heading Home Scale. And we can see that in this case there is no difference. So under the heading Comparison we put the word Same. For the next mode, the D Dorian mode, we compare the notes to the home scale of D major. You can see from the top of the picture that the Dorian mode has two notes that differ from the major scale. The third and seventh notes of the D major scale are both flatted to make the D Dorian mode. So in the comparison column we have the formula flat 3, flat 7. For the E Phrygian mode, we compare the notes to the home scale of E major. You can see from the top of the picture that the Phrygian mode has 4 notes that differ from the major scale. The second, third, sixth and seventh note of the E major scale are all flatted to make the E Phrygian mode. So in the comparison column we have the formula flat 2, flat 3, flat 6, flat 7. For the F Lydian mode, we compare the notes to the home scale of F major. The Lydian mode has 1 note that differs from the major scale. The 4th note of the F major scale is sharped to make the F Lydian mode. So in the comparison column we put the formula sharp 4. For the G Mixolydian mode, we compare the notes to the home scale of G major. You can see that the Mixolydian mode also has just 1 note that differs from the major scale. The 7th note of the G major scale is flatted to make the G Mixolydian mode. So in the comparison column we have the formula flat 7. For the A Aeolian mode we compare the notes to the home scale of A major. The Aeolian mode has 3 notes that differ from the major scale. The 3rd, 6th and 7th notes of the A major scale are all flatted to make the A Aeolian mode. So in the comparison column we have the formula flat 3, flat 6 and flat 7. The sharp-eyed among you will have spotted that this is of course the natural minor scale formula. For the B Locrian mode we compare the notes to the home scale of B major. You can see that the Locrian mode has 5 notes that differ from the major scale. The 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th and 7th notes of the B major scale are all flatted to make the B Locrian mode. So in the comparison column we have the formula flat 2, flat 3, flat 5, flat 6 and flat 7. So that is a neat way of working out each individual formula for the modes. And it's important to realise that as with all musical formulas, you can then use that to apply universally to any key. However, at first glance, this still gives us a lot of complex information to get our heads around. So let's go one step further in the direction of making it easier. Looking down the column headed Comparison, which now shows each mode formula, I've coloured blue all the modes that include a flatted third in the formula, and red all the modes that retain the natural third. By doing this, we've effectively divided the modes into 3 that can be considered major in tonality, the red modes, and 4 that we'll label minor, those coloured blue. Let's take a closer look now at the major modes to start with, and compare them to the major scale. Mode 1, the Ionian mode, is the same as the major scale. Mode 4, the Lydian mode, is a major scale with the 4th note sharped. Mode 5 is a major scale with the 7th note flatted. So that's nice and easy. One mode is the same as the major scale, the other 2 only differ from the major scale by just 1 note. So suddenly we realise that we can quite easily find these modes. Okay, so pick a key at random, we'll pick B. To play the Ionian mode in B, I simply play the major scale, which we know from our sandwich exercise. So that's the B Ionian mode. The B Lydian mode, I play the major scale, but I sharpen the 4th note. 1, 2, 3. Instead of that note, I play that note. The rest is the same. Strange sounding mode, that one. And then for the Mixolydian mode, I flatten the 7th note. So instead of that note, I'm going to play that note. So much for the major modes. But what about the minor ones? Well, the trick with the minor modes is not to compare them with the major scale, but to compare them with the minor scale that we're most familiar with, the natural minor scale. We discovered that mode 2, the Dorian mode, is a natural minor scale with a natural 6th instead of a flatted one. Mode 3, the Phrygian mode, is a natural minor scale with the 2nd flatted. Mode 6, the Aeolian mode, is the same as a natural minor scale. And Mode 7, the Locrian, is a natural minor scale with both the 2nd and 5th flatted. So these modes too suddenly become quite easy to find as long as we're reasonably familiar with the natural minor scale and have done our sandwich exercise drills and followed through with the infinite virtual fretboard drill that we covered in earlier lessons on this course. Okay, so let's work in the key of C, and we'll take the C natural minor scale as our point of reference. Now to play a Dorian mode, so the C Dorian mode, we play that again, but we restore the 6th note to its natural. 2, 3, 4, 5. So instead of that flatted 6th, we play that natural 6th there. So that's the C Dorian. The Phrygian mode is the natural minor scale with the 2nd flatted. So instead of that note, we play that note. And the Aeolian is the same as a natural minor. And the Locrian has the 2nd flatted and the 5th note flatted as well. Quite nice that the most complex mode, the Locrian, actually has the easiest fingering. Hopefully at this stage you'll be beginning to feel a little less daunted at the prospect of learning how to find any of these modes in any key anywhere on the fretboard. In this lesson we want to just take one more step in the direction of making the modes easier to understand, and that is to take a look at how they relate to the underlying diatonic series of 7th chords that we created in the last lesson by harmonising the major scale to 4-note chords. Looking across each line on this chart, it's possible to see a number of similarities between the modes for each number and the corresponding chord built on that step of the major scale. The Ionian mode, for example, contains no sharps or flats, nor does the formula for the major 7th chord. The Dorian mode has a flat 3 and a flat 7, so does the minor 7th chord formula. The Locrian mode has a flatted 5th, so does the half diminished chord. The Mixolydian mode has a flatted 7th, so does the dominant 7th chord. This works because another way of deriving these chords is by playing leapfrog with the modes. So, starting here with C major, the Ionian mode of C. I play that and I leave every 2nd note out. So I play the 1st, leave out the 2nd, go to the 3rd, leave out the 4th, go to the 5th, leave out the 6th, go to the 7th. And then we come down that. That gives us the arpeggio, or the formula of the major 7th chord. 1, 3, 5, 7. And finishing on the 8th. If I then move to the C Dorian mode, then I've got to remember that's a natural minor with a natural 6th. if I play that leapfrog style, leaving every other note out, I get 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 8. And that's the arpeggio for the minor 7th chord. Moving to the Phrygian mode. With its flatted second there. That flatted second doesn't really alter the leapfrog process because I leap over it. So again we get the minor 7th chord. Moving on to the Lydian. Again I leave out the 2nd, 3rd, leave out the sharp 4, goes to the 5th, and then go to the 7th. And I've got the major 7th chord. The Mixolydian. Remember that's got the flatted 7th in. So we've got 1, 3, 5, flat 7, which is the formula of the dominant 7th chord. The Aeolian. And again 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, minor 7th chord arpeggio. And finally the Locrian, flat 2nd, flat 5th, flat 7th and flat 6th. And if we leave every other note out we get 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7, 8. And that's the formula for a half diminished chord. 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. This is important because when we put modes to use, this link between the 7th chords and the modes is one of the criteria that we use to select which mode to use when. But really that takes us on to the subject of how to use modes. And that belongs to the next lesson. So I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to how to understand modes. Now, as long as you feel you've followed this lesson reasonably well, I think you can fearlessly move straight on to the next lesson, because in that lesson we'll be putting these modes straight to use. And in doing so, I'm sure your understanding of them will quickly grow in any case. If, however, this lesson has left you with a feeling of just hanging on by your mental fingertips, then I strongly recommend going back over this lesson one more time and taking a closer look at the logic of each step. Maybe working through a few more examples of your own before moving on. It's amazing how much clearer things appear on second inspection, and I do appreciate that there is a lot of content in this lesson. Once you're happy to move on, then I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.